Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Shubham and today I am here to discuss again a very important topic, that is the thalassemia, very special type of anemia. And you must have studied about the iron deficiency anemia in this group. I am talking about the microcytic hypochromic anemia, guys. Microcytic hypochromic anemia, basically more commonly we are reading about two kinds of anemia, that is iron deficiency anemia, and second one is our thalassemia, and third one you can discover over there at that as anemia of chronic disease. You might have read about that in the book as well. Okay, but today I'm here to talk about the thalassemia, very special kind of anemia, and very commonly it is actually tested in the exams also. Okay, so let's try to get some concepts about the thalassemia. We'll do some kind of these clinical scenarios, but first let's make some concepts in the thalassemia, okay, and then we'll come back to them. So as far as this thalassemia is concerned, first of all, a very important point over here I would like to highlight, that this is the type of which one? This is the type of microcytic hypochromic anemia, guys. So no doubt about that, this is the microcytic hypochromic anemia. Second one, I will tell you over here that inheritance nowadays is very important. So they generally test us in the inheritance basically. So again guys, sickle cell anemia, I also told you that was autosomal recessive, and here also I'm telling you that thalassemia is also the autosomal recessive disorder. Okay, autosomal recessive disorder, that anemia is also the autosomal recessive anemia. Okay, now if you talk about a thalassemia, I can divide our thalassemia into two types. So I'm just writing over here that if you will see about the types of the thalassemia, guys. So if you will talk about the types of the thalassemia, then I can divide it into two types. One can be the alpha thalassemia and one can be the beta thalassemia. If I will talk about the detail of the thalassemia, then I will say that thalassemia is affecting the globin chains of the hemoglobin. I hope whoever actually watched the video of sickle cell anemia, they know the structure of the hemoglobin actually. Okay, once again I would like to highlight the structure of hemoglobin over here. So here you can see the structure of hemoglobin, guys. In the structure of hemoglobin, why I am putting it over here, because I want to have a clear picture in your mind, so that we are having a better understanding about the thalassemia. So basically you can see the hemoglobin picture over here. This is the hemoglobin basically, and over here what I want to see over here is that we are having two chains, alpha chains and the beta chains, guys. Alpha 1, alpha 2, as you can see over here, and with that beta 1 and beta 2. So if the beta chain of this hemoglobin is affected, then it will be called as the beta thalassemia, guys, and if the alpha chain will be affected, then it will be called as the alpha thalassemia, right? I hope you are very clear about that. So there might be the possibility that one beta chain might be involved, there might be the possibility that both the beta chains might be involved. Same goes with the alpha also. There might be the possibility that one alpha chain is affected, or there might be the possibility that both the alpha chains might be affected as well. Okay, so we'll talk about this detail. So first of all, let me just classify the thalassemia. So thalassemia overall, we are saying it is having two types, guys, that is the alpha thalassemia and the beta thalassemia. So that is what alpha thalassemia and beta thalassemia, right? I hope you're clear about that while I'm writing this, because alpha thalassemia will be affecting the alpha chains, beta thalassemia will be affecting the beta chains basically. Fine. Now if you talk about the alpha chains, basically alpha chain, I told you about that alpha chain will be affected over here. Do you remember about the types of the hemoglobin? I told you about the three types of the hemoglobin. So yes guys, I just want to revise over here very quickly that in the adults we are having three types of hemoglobin: HbA, HbF and HbA2, right? So very quickly just revise what was HbA, HbF and HbA2. HbA, I told you HbA was present about 95 to 97% of the people having this. So I mean the 95 to 97% of the hemoglobin is present in the HbA form. Then HbF, I told you mostly it is in the fetus, but HbF can be present in the us also in the form of less than 1%. Okay, and HbA2 is also very less, that is around 2 to 4% or 2 to 3.5%. okay, further if I will say, then I can write over here as HbA will be having which form? HbA will be having the alpha 2 beta 2. That is very very common, guys. Alpha 2 beta 2, this is just a revision from the sickle cell anemia topic. If you haven't watched that, please watch it as well. Then HbF alpha 2 is common, alpha 2 chains are common, alpha 2 and then this is the gamma 2, and HbA2 will be alpha 2 and delta 2, guys. Okay, why is it important now? Because because I will tell you which kind of hemoglobin, HbA, HbF or HbA2, which kind of hemoglobin is defective in the which kind of thalassemia we are gonna talk about that. That's why I just revise it over here. Fine. Now if I'm talking about the alpha thalassemia and beta thalassemia, I would like to highlight over here. If I'm talking about the alpha thalassemia, basically alpha thalassemia are happening because of gene deletion. Alpha thalassemia is happening because of gene deletions most commonly. Okay, gene deletions. And beta thalassemia are mostly happening because of mutations in the globin chains of the hemoglobin, right? So beta thalassemia are most commonly happening with the mutations, and alpha thalassemia are happening most commonly due to gene deletions, guys. Okay, first of all I would like to highlight over here in front of you, that is the beta thalassemia. So let's expose the beta thalassemia, how the beta thalassemia will be looking, how it is very important for our examination purpose also. So let's talk about that as well. Beta thalassemia. If we talk about beta thalassemia further, beta thalassemia I can divide it further into 3 types, guys. What are the 3 types? One is the beta thalassemia major, that is the major one and very important, beta thalassemia major. Other one I can say that will be the beta thalassemia intermediate, or I can write it as intermedia. And other one, as you can easily guess, that will be the beta thalassemia minor. Okay, beta thalassemia minor one. So how many types are there, guys? Beta thalassemia major, beta thalassemia minor, and in between there is a beta thalassemia intermedia. Beta thalassemia intermedia. Okay, some of the terminologies I would like to highlight over here. For example, what is I told you that 2 beta chains and 2 alpha chains are present. Usually HbA is very common, right? HbA is mostly the constituent of the hemoglobin basically. So if I'm writing it as, some terminologies I'm just highlighting over here. If I'm writing it as beta, okay, beta, just nothing, just beta, so consider it as normal, guys. Okay, if I'm writing, let's say, beta plus, then consider it that there is a partial deficiency of beta globin chain, okay. In the thalassemia we are using that. Fine. And if I'm writing beta 0 like this, then I am writing it as, I am just imagining that this is the complete deficiency of beta chain, okay. So just keep this in mind, that beta is normal, beta 0 complete deficiency, and beta plus is the partial deficiency of the beta globin chain. Okay, we need to remember this. Then if you talk about the pathogenesis, guys, if you talk about the pathogenesis of the beta thalassemia, then what we can find? Okay, if you talk about the pathogenesis of beta thalassemia, 3 things we can find over here. Okay, what are these 3 things? One is that more usually we are having the affection of HbA. So if there is affection of HbA is decreasing. Most usually there is affection because that is very common. So if HbA is there, in the HbA I told you which is present, that is the alpha to beta 2. So over here also I can say that alpha to beta 2 will be affected. So I can write that alpha to beta 2 will also be hampered over here, alpha to beta 2 will also be decreasing. Okay, and due to that I can write over here, okay, I will just change the color. Due to that I can write over here that this will be the microcytic hypochromic anemia, guys. Okay, due to that it will be the microcytic hypochromic anemia. So that's why it is considered under the category of microcytic hypochromic anemia. Okay, so that was the first point I considered in the pathogenesis part. Okay, second point I am considering over here is that HbA is decreasing, so comparatively HbF and HbA2, that will be increasing. Comparatively HbF and HbA2 is increasing, because we know that is what is that, this HbA is decreasing. So HbF, for a revision purpose, HbF was alpha 2 and gamma 2, so it will be increasing, guys, and alpha 2 and delta 2 it was for HbA2, so it will also be increasing, right? Third point over here I would like to mention that if the HbA is affected, then definitely in the bone marrow, there will be the pathological RBCs, they will be producing the pathological RBCs because HbA has been hampered now. As these pathological RBCs will be flowing into the peripheral blood circulation, they has to go through the spleen because of their testing. So the splenic macrophages are very active. They will be capturing such kind of abnormal pathological RBCs, and that's how extravascular hemolysis can be seen in these patients. So in the beta thalassemia, third point I would like to highlight over here is that in these patients, so third point I would like to highlight over here is that if there is a pathological RBCs or abnormal RBCs are producing due to this HbA problem in the bone marrow, if the pathological RBCs are persisting over there, due to that it can lead to extravascular hemolysis. Due to that it can lead to extravascular hemolysis, isn't it? Yes, I can write that it can lead to extravascular hemolysis. Fine. So that can be the major thing over here. Microcytic hypochromic anemia can be seen, extravascular hemolysis can be seen, HbA is decreasing, HbF, HbA2 will be increasing in the thalassemia, guys. So guys, now let's talk about the beta thalassemia major. In the beta thalassemia major, if I will say, then basically HbA is very severely hampered. Okay, what I'm saying, in the beta thalassemia, if you will say, then basically HbA is very severely hampered in these patients. So if I'm saying beta thalassemia means which chain of the hemoglobin is affected, that is the beta chain of the hemoglobin is affected. So I'm writing that there is a marked decrease in the beta chain synthesis basically. Okay, so basically beta chain synthesis will be hampered over here. Secondly, if I will talk about the clinical features over here, so what can be seen in the patient, because the patient is anemic, hypochromic microcytic anemia is there, so pallor is very common in these patients. Okay, pallor will be there. Along with that, what can be there, jaundice can be seen in the patient. Along with that, what can be seen in the patient, we will be seeing that because extravascular hemolysis, I told you in the thalassemia, extravascular hemolysis was happening, so due to that splenomegaly might be appreciated in the patient as well. So splenomegaly can also be there. Okay, I hope you're understanding till now. Now severe anemia is seen in these kind of patient. If I'm talking about the anemia, pallor will be there, jaundice will be there because extravascular hemolysis is going on, splenomegaly can be there. A very peculiar finding, gallstones, if you are seeing the gallstone also, so don't be surprised because it can also be seen in the beta thalassemia major patient. Gallstone problem can also be seen in some of the patient. Okay, not all the patient, some of the patient. Then you can see if the patient is coming to your hospital, you can think of that history of blood transfusions can be present. If you will be taking the history, they might give you the history of blood transfusions as well, because beta thalassemia patient needs the blood transfusion very frequently. Okay, we will talk about that later on. And with that, what kind of finding you can find, very special peculiar finding, that is the crew cut appearance. Okay, that is a crew cut skull appearance. And let me talk about crew cut skull appearance. I told you in the last video also of the sickle cell anemia, because crew cut appearance, hair on end appearance can be seen on those patients as well which is having the hemolytic anemia, right? So beta thalassemia is also the part of the hemolytic anemia, and your sickle cell anemia is also the part of hemolytic anemia. So that's why crew cut skull can be seen definitely over there. Okay, so this is the appearance of the crew cut skull, where you can see that patient will be having the hair on end appearance like this because of extramedullary hematopoiesis. So here you can see the due to extramedullary hematopoiesis. Okay, this is happening, that the person might be having the hair on end appearance, or also called as the crew cut hairstyle. So that's why crew cut appearance. Fine. So that is very peculiar finding. Then in some of the patient, in some of the children's basically, I would like to mention over here, peculiar finding can be there. What peculiar finding I'm talking about? In the beta thalassemia, guys, I'm talking about this thing, that they will be having the chipmunk faces. Chipmunk faces, or we are also calling that as thalassemic faces, because this is seen in basically thalassemia patient only. Okay, most commonly. So thalassemic faces, let me talk about that as well. And what findings you will be seeing over there? For example, frontal bossing can be there. Okay, frontal bossing. I will show you the image, don't worry guys. Frontal bossing can be there. Then along with that, nasal bridge will be flattened, so flat nasal bridge can be seen over there as well. Okay, so flat nasal bridge can also be seen. Okay, now let's talk about the image what I'm talking about right now. So here you can see the picture of the chipmunk faces. Okay, so here is a picture of the chipmunk faces over here, as you can see on your right now on your screen. So here what we need to see is that this person, this children, what is the problem? Okay, if you will see what is the problem over here, then flat nasal bridge you can see over here. Okay, if I will mark, look at the nose over here, this particular area, this is the flat, right? This is the flat area. And look at the forehead, look at the forehead of this baby, look at the forehead of this child. Basically you'll be seeing the frontal bossing is there. Okay, frontal part is slightly elevated, okay, towards your side, so that is the frontal bossing. So frontal bossing, frontal nasal bridge is there. This is the chipmunk faces, guys. This is the chipmunk faces seen in thalassemia patient. So chipmunk faces or thalassemic faces is seen in thalassemia patient, basically thalassemia major patient. Okay, now very importantly we need to talk about the lab diagnosis over here. Okay, lab diagnosis. Now in the lab you will take the blood sample of this patient and you will send it to the pathological lab over there, and by the help of the lab you will be able to know that what are the findings. Okay, so findings are very peculiar. As I am talking about the microcytic hypochromic anemia, hemoglobin will be lesser, obviously, no doubt about that. Reticulocyte count will be higher, reticulocytosis can be there, guys. So reticulocyte count can be on the higher side. Along with that, mean corpuscular volume, yes, that will be lowering down. MCH, that will be also lowering down. MCHC, that will also be lowering down over here. I'm talking about the microcytic hypochromic anemia. And red cell distribution width. Okay, if you guys remember, red cell distribution width is increased in the iron deficiency anemia, but it is normal in the thalassemia patient. That's how we can differentiate on the basis of RDW, that is the red cell distribution width. On the basis of red cell distribution width also, if it is normal, then it is thalassemia. We can differentiate between iron deficiency anemia and the thalassemia patient, because iron deficiency anemia, thalassemia patient, both are coming in the category of microcytic hypochromic anemia. That's why I'm telling you, right? Okay, then if you will see the peripheral blood smear, guys. Okay, you want to see the peripheral blood smear, then what will be the findings you will be appreciating over there. In the peripheral blood smear, microcytic hypochromic anemia, so these kind of RBCs you can find. Okay, that is the microcytic hypochromic anemia. Okay, microcytic hypochromic anemia, no doubt about that. Okay, so microcytic hypochromic cells you will be seeing over there, rather I should say microcytic hypochromic cells you will see over there. Okay, microcytic hypochromic cells you will see over there. Along with that, you will be seeing the basophilic stripling. I will show you the image, don't worry. Basophilic stripling you will be seeing. I will show you how the basophilic stripling looks like. Then along with that, you will be seeing, you might see the target cells. And target cells are very peculiar, guys, and they test you basically in your examination. So target cells are seen in which kind of anemia, that is your answer will be very, very clear. That is the target cell can be seen in the thalassemia. Target cell can also be seen in the iron deficiency anemia, but in your examination, mostly they want to test you about the thalassemia. Okay, so your answer will be target cell will be seen in the thalassemia. So let's see the pictures as well, that how these appearance is looking like. Okay, for example, look at this particular picture over here. So here you can see the peripheral blood smear. Okay, in the peripheral blood smear, what you can see over here is that, you can see, can you see the target cells, guys? Yes, you can see the target cell over here. How you can see the target cell? You'll be seeing the RBCs over there, and it is looking like inside we are having a target. Okay, for example, look at this RBC. Okay, we are having the target inside it. Look at this RBC, looking like it is having the target inside it. Okay, you can look at this RBC, target, right? So this is called as the target RBCs. Okay, this is called as the target RBCs. Fine. Now you can see on the right side there can be the basophilic stripling. So here you can see one RBC. Okay, and look at this RBC now. In this RBC you will be seeing the blue dots over there. It might not be clear on your image, but I'm just trying to highlight it. So it is the bluish dot you can see over there with the black arrow. They are saying that is the basophilic stripling, guys. Okay, along with that, teardrop cells can also be found over the you know, this, like how that's how the tears are dropping right from the eyes. So teardrop cell can also be the finding of the thalassemia, but basically you need to remember about the target cell. Okay, basically you need to remember target cell. Basophilic stripling can also be found in the case of peripheral blood smear of the thalassemia, guys. Okay, then moving further, what test you can do for these kind of patient. Okay, so you can do the hemoglobin electrophoresis, guys. Okay, hemoglobin electrophoresis. If you will see the hemoglobin electrophoresis, what you will be seeing in the hemoglobin electrophoresis, we need to understand. In the hemoglobin electrophoresis, you will be finding out that HbF is increasing, guys, and that is the basic point. HbF fetal band in the hemoglobin electrophoresis, that will be increasing over there. Okay, so let us see the this Hb electrophoresis as well. So if you will see the Hb electrophoresis in front of you, you can see the hemoglobin electrophoresis right now. Okay, so let me show you guys how the hemoglobin electrophoresis looks. So yeah, so look over here, hemoglobin electrophoresis. Here you can see first of all the normal pattern. I'm just showing the normal pattern over here, in which you can see the HbA is having a larger picture. HbA is around 95 to 97%. HbF is around 1-2%, and HbA2 also, it is around 2 to 3%. Okay, so that is the case. So this is the normal pattern. But if you will see the next one, sickle cell anemia, what we have now? HbS. Look at this HbS. Do we have HbS in the normal? Yeah, no, because HbS is not compatible with life, right? These kind of children are not able to live for a very long period of time. So sickle cell anemia, HbS, remember last topic. So that's how the fetal band will be looking like in the hemoglobin electrophoresis. I told you hemoglobin electrophoresis is very important for the hemoglobinopathies, right? So this is also the hemolytic anemia. Now look at the beta thalassemia one. HbA2 is there, HbA is there, HbF is there, but look at the HbF, guys. In the HbF you are seeing a very thick fetal band, isn't it? And HbA is not that thick. But in the normal, how it should be? HbA should be thicker in the normal, and HbF should be minor one, because that's the physiology, right? Normal pattern. But here opposite thing is happening in the beta thalassemia. That's why HbF is increased. So that's what I wanted to depict over here. That here what you are seeing, basically HbF will be increasing. HbF will be increasing in the fetal band. HbF fetal band will be increasing in the beta thalassemia patient. Okay, mainly the beta thalassemia major I am talking about. Okay, once you will be seeing that hemoglobin electrophoresis, that HbF is increasing, the next test can also be done, and this next test will be actually your HPLC. What is HPLC? HPLC is high performance liquid chromatography. Okay, high performance liquid chromatography, and this is abbreviated as chromatography. This is abbreviated as HPLC. Okay, this is abbreviated as HPLC. In the HPLC, what findings you can see over there? You can see the increased level of HbF, that is the increased level of fetal band. With that, this is the diagnostic actually. This is diagnostic for the thalassemia major patient, and along with that you can see the HbA2 levels are also increasing. And what levels are decreasing? HbA levels. Okay, and this is actually the investigation of choice for the thalassemia major patient. This is very sensitive, HPLC. Okay, now after diagnosing all these things, what can be the management, guys? Okay, what can be the treatment for such patient of the thalassemia major? I'm just talking about the thalassemia major, guys. In the thalassemia major, what can be the treatment? Blood transfusions can be needed, repeated blood transfusion, because HbF is increased, not HbA. HbA is decreasing, so we need the HB. We need to elevate the level of HbA. So in order to do that, we need to do the repeated blood transfusions, guys. Repeated blood transfusion has to be done. Okay, that's why these kind of patient might have the history of the blood transfusion in the past. And secondly, importantly, and I would say for the long term, what will be the permanent treatment over here? That will be the stem cell transplantation. Okay, that will be the stem cell transplantation. Fine. So that will be the permanent solution of this particular thalassemia. Okay, mostly these people are dying because we are actually repeating the blood transfusion again and again, and that's why the iron overload happens in these kind of patients. Okay, what I'm saying, in some patients iron overload is happening due to repeated blood transfusion, and that's how that can be the most common cause of death. So that can be the most common cause of death in the thalassemia major patient. Okay, so we have talked about the major things about the thalassemia major patient. Now guys, I am coming to the beta thalassemia minor. Beta thalassemia minor is also called as beta thalassemia minor. Either we can call it as beta thalassemia trait, okay, or we can call it as beta thalassemia trait. What we need to understand about the beta thalassemia minor or beta thalassemia trait over here, that basically if these patients are there, they are normally asymptomatic. They're usually asymptomatic, these patients, and do not need treatment. Okay, they do not need treatment usually. Beta thalassemia minor, they will not be coming to you for their treatment actually. Okay, basically beta thalassemia major patients are coming usually. Fine, one thing is clear in our mind. Then next thing over here is, if you talk about the lab diagnosis for such patients, if you talk about the lab diagnosis of such patient, then you can see some finding. Remember the lab diagnosis of the beta thalassemia major patient, I told you HbF is more, HbA2 is more, but HbA will be less. Over here hemoglobin is decreasing, fine, that's fine. Hemoglobin will be decreasing, that's fine. But along with that, MCV, MCH, MCHC, that can be MCV, MCH and MCHC, either it can be decreasing, okay, either it can be decreasing or it can be normal as well. Okay, peripheral blood smear, if you will see guys, in these patients, peripheral blood smear, okay, what you will be seeing, obviously you will be seeing that target cells appearance can be there. So target cells you can see over there very easily. I showed you the image as well, how the target cell looks. Okay, here iron profile will almost be normal. Hemoglobin electrophoresis, if you will do for such patient, I told you hemoglobin electrophoresis when we were doing for the beta thalassemia major, I told you that in the beta thalassemia major, hemoglobin electrophoresis was showing the increased band of HbF and HbA was decreasing. Over here it will be showing the increased band of HbA2. HbA2 was increasing over there as well, but HbF was more increasing. Here HbA2 is more increasing. Okay, next thing over here, I would say that HbA2 counts if it is between, normally it is 2 to 3.5% in a normal individual, but HbA2, if you are talking about the beta thalassemia minor patient, it will be in between 4 to 9% range. Okay, 2 to 3.5% is normal. If it is between 4 to 9%, please understand this is the beta thalassemia trait or beta thalassemia minor. Understood guys? So that is about the beta thalassemia minor patient basically. Okay, for the screening, for the mass screening of the thalassemia patient, how we can screen, how we can know that asymptomatic patient can be there as well. So to screen these kind of patients so that we can start the treatment early, so we can go for the screening test. If somebody will be asking you for the thalassemia patient, okay, if they are asking the screening test, then your answer over here will be the Nesterov test. That is the Nesterov test. Okay, what is this Nesterov test? Nesterov test is having a full form as naked eye single tube red cell osmotic fragility test. Okay, osmotic fragility cell test. Okay, so what is that? This is the naked eye single tube red cell osmotic fragility test. This is the full form of the which test? Nesterov test. This is used for what? Screening. This is the screening test. That's how we can screen that what kind of patients are having these. Okay, now we have talked about the beta thalassemia major, we have talked about the beta thalassemia minor. Beta thalassemia intermediate will be having the similar kind of symptom in between the thalassemia major and thalassemia minor basically. Okay, and usually they do not need much treatment because mostly they are also asymptomatic. Fine. Now I am coming to a very important part, that is the beta thalassemia we have covered already. We are actually going to cover now alpha thalassemia. Okay, we are going to cover alpha thalassemia now guys. In the alpha thalassemia, I will tell you the 4 types basically. What are these 4 types now? In the alpha thalassemia, I will tell you the 4 types. What are these 4 types? One can be that one alpha gene deletion can be there. Okay, only one alpha gene deletion can be there. So I can write that alpha, okay, alpha, and here it is gene deletion. Okay, so I can write it like this. Then these are basically, okay, alpha 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 minus, okay, or I can say the blank over there. Second second type can be there, that here I told you only one alpha gene is deleted, here two alpha gene can be deleted. So either it can be alpha blank or it can be alpha alpha blank, okay, because two alpha chains are deleted over here. Other category might be, okay, 4 categories are there, right? Other category might be 3 alpha genes are deleted, so it will be like alpha, okay, blank, and 4 if it is deleted, then blank. That will be the 4 alpha gene deletion. So I'm just writing so that you are understanding that here we are having the 1 alpha gene deletion, okay, 1 alpha gene deletion. Here we are having the 2 alpha gene deletions, here we are having 3 alpha gene deletion, and here we are having the 4 alpha gene deletions. Okay, so that is the thing. If you will talk about only 1 alpha gene deletion, that will be called as the silent carrier. They are actually the silent carrier. They are what? They are the silent carrier, and they are usually asymptomatic patients. They are usually asymptomatic. This is called as the alpha thalassemia, okay, alpha thalassemia trait. Okay, these are called as alpha thalassemia trait. They are usually normal patients. Okay, so this is alpha thalassemia trait. Remember beta thalassemia trait, they were also asymptomatic, right? These are also asymptomatic, alpha thalassemia trait. If you talk about 2 alpha gene deletion, then 2 possibilities can be there over here. If you talk about the 2 alpha gene deletions, guys, in the 2 alpha gene deletion, what can be the possibilities? That one is seen in the Asian population, one is seen in the African population. Actually there are cis deletion or trans deletion. If this part I am talking about, okay, if this part I am talking about, this is called as cis deletion. This is the cis deletion. And if this part I am talking about, this is called as the trans deletion. Cis deletion because one side deletion is there, so this is called as trans deletion. Cis deletion if I am talking about, and trans deletion I am talking about. Cis deletion is seen in the Asian population, usually in the Asian population, Asians people, and trans deletion is usually happening in the African people usually. Okay, this is actually happening most commonly in the African population. Okay, if coming to the 3 gene deletion now, if we talk about the 3 gene deletion, then we can say that it is happening in those patients who are having the very severe anemia. Okay, and here we are using a very peculiar term, that is the HbH disease. Okay, HbH disease, and here we are having the severe anemia in the patient. These patients will be having the hemoglobin very low, so severe anemia will be seen in these patients. Okay, then we are having the 4 alpha gene deletion. In the 4 alpha gene deletion, we can say that these patient will be having what? These are the very severe patient, and this kind of patient will be having a special kind of thing, that is the HB BART. Okay, we are using very special name over there. This is the HB BARTs. In the HB BARTs, we are saying that hydrops fetalis happens. The fetus will be filling up with the water. If it is fetus, then we are using the term as hydrops fetalis. Okay, hemoglobin BARTs, hydrops fetalis. These kind of things can be asked in the examination as a form of MCQ, right? So hemoglobin BARTs will be used as a 4 alpha gene deletion. Fine, that is the hydrops fetalis. So once again, guys, 1 alpha gene deletion, it will be having the silent carrier, no asymptomatic patient, normal alpha thalassemia trait. Then trans alpha gene deletion can be seen in the African population. Cis alpha gene deletion can be seen in the Asian population. 3 alpha gene deletion, HbH disease, severe anemia. 4 alpha gene deletion, hemoglobin BART, and that can lead to the, that can cause not compatible with life, that can cause the hydrops fetalis. Okay, and the baby might die. Okay, so that is about the alpha thalassemia, guys. That is about the alpha thalassemia. Okay, I hope you are clear about that. So let's talk about the MCQs now, guys. Look at the first one. Alpha 28-year-old male is found to have a 93% HbA and 93% HbA, 2% HbF and 5% HbA2. If you guys remember, I told you that if you talk about the HbA levels, how much it was? Yes, you are very correct. It was around 95 to 97%. Then HbF was less than 1% normally, and HbA2 was 2 to 3.5%. Here you can see HbA2 levels are high. You can see that HbA2 level is high. It can be what? Which kind of anemia? It is thalassemia, obviously. But which kind of thalassemia? Major or minor? Yes, it will be the minor or beta thalassemia trait, right? On hemoglobin electrophoresis was found. Which of the following is the most likely diagnosis? You just need to identify. Well, sickle cell trait, definitely it's not the answer. Diabetes mellitus, E option, that is also not the answer. Alpha thalassemia major with hemoglobin BART. Hemoglobin BART is seen in 4 alpha gene deletion, right? It is seen with 4 alpha gene deletion. 4 alpha gene deletion. This is not the case over here. Sickle cell trait, you can see the HBS. This is not given in the question as well. Beta thalassemia minor or beta thalassemia trait. Yes, it can be the answer actually. It can be the answer actually. Beta thalassemia minor or beta thalassemia trait. It can be the answer. Beta thalassemia major. In the beta thalassemia major, usually HbF is very high. Usually what happens over here is HbF is high and HbA levels are drastically low. HbA2 can be elevated as well, but HbF basically it's high. But over here HbF is not that high and HbA are also not that drastically reduced over here, so that can also be not the answer. In the diabetes mellitus, HbA1c we are talking about, right? That is a glycosylated hemoglobin, but here it is not talking about that, right? So answer over here will be the beta thalassemia minor or beta thalassemia trait. I hope you are very clear about that. Next question is the Kozak sequence for the beta globin gene. Okay, which gene? Beta globin gene has a non-mutation which decreases though does not abolish translation of beta globin mRNA, leading to a phenotype of thalassemia intermedia. Okay, which phenotype? Thalassemia intermedia. Okay, thalassemia intermedia. Now what would be the blood smear is expected to show in the patient positive for the mutation? So better thalassemia intermedia, it means which it will be showing. Look at the options now. Macrocytic RBCs, no, it is seen in where? It is seen in the B9 and B12 deficiency anemia, guys. B9 and B12 deficiency anemia, macrocytic anemia, right? It is not the case in the given option. This is the, they are talking about thalassemia intermedia, right? This is the microcytic actually. Hyperchromic red blood cell, again it is seen in the B9 B12 deficiency anemia. Okay, microcytic RBCs, yes, microcytic RBC, microcytic hyperchromic anemia, that is the thalassemia. So yes, definitely that can be the answer actually over here. Yes, I agree with that. Bite cells, no, bite cells are seen where? Yes, that is G6PD deficiency anemia. And if we talk about the last option, ring sideroblast, yes, it is seen in the sideroblastic anemia. So that can also be not the answer over here in this case, definitely, right? So over here answer will be definitely microcytic RBCs. Okay, so with that said, I would like to conclude over here the topic of thalassemia, guys. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Thank you for joining in, and please consider subscribe. If you like the video, please share it with your friends, hit the like button, and let me know your views in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one with some interesting topic. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next side. Bye bye, take care.